Alright guys, it's Dokkan time again, and we're going to be revisiting the build for the Agl Vegito Blue, or the Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta unit that was released last year on last year's Worldwide Download Celebration. They are featured on the current Worldwide, or not the current, well, I guess depending on when you view this, it'll be the current Worldwide Download Celebration banner for, I believe, Goku and Vegeta, or the Super Saiyan Trio, the new Super Saiyan Trio. So they are featured on that banner. So I figured this is a good time to revisit. It's been a year. It's been a year since this unit was released. So I wanted to go over the builds. But let's go really quick over the quick builds. You know, I mean, some people don't want to watch the entire video. They don't want to go through the breakdown. They know how this unit works. They just want to know what the suggestions are, and that's fine. I get it. I 100% get it. So on the right side of the screen, you will see there is a 55% build. It's either dodge or additional. In all honesty, at 55%, these guys are pretty underwhelming. I'm not going to lie to you. 55%. This is a unit that thrives off dupes. If you don't have dupes for the unit, it can be a very kind of unit. It just really depends. Primarily, I would suggest going for dodge, personally. But I do understand the push for additional instead. It's entirely based on the player preferences. Even a defense orb, I think, could go a little bit of a ways. I wouldn't say far, but I could say a little bit of a ways if you want to throw in a defense orb instead of trying to put in more dodge. Entirely up to you. Another build choice could be going on full dodge and then putting the rest into crit. Maybe you think you really want some crit out of all the additionals that this unit can actually pull off, because this unit can pull off a lot of additionals in both base of Goku Vegeta or when he transforms into Vegito. Crit is something I like. I personally prefer crit in a lot of my builds. Even if a unit is more defense-oriented or they are specifically, need to have dodge, I prefer having crit sometimes. It just really depends on the unit's kit. But yeah, you can either go for like a dodge crit build, a dodge additional build for more of a defense-oriented take. This is what I would consider a defensive build right here. Is just you're betting on the dodge. You have the 50% dodge in both of base and transformed. You have auto dodge function with Vegito when he uses active. So I feel like this is a very common build that a large majority of players would like to preferably use, and they're just kind of they're just playing with the attacks effective against all types. And then they're, like I said, personally, I would probably like to put in a lot of crit and then put the rest into dodge. And that's just because I prefer damage. I want some damage out of a unit. This is probably a very unlikely build that you would choose. Typically with equipment orbs, I could get this crit up all the way up to 27 crit. That's a 52, like a 54% chance to crit. And, if I threw in all of the rest of these both being all like double dodge and so forth, I could get that dodge up there pretty high too. But I can totally understand also some players that are just like, screw dodge. He's already got dodge built in. I completely understand you. If that's the way you want to roll, then I feel like this is a kind of a build that you might want to rock, more of additional and crit. Maybe these are one of your kind of preferences, pushing in the crit because he already has additionals built in, or maybe just focusing more on additionals to build up the damage and base, and then additionals again to kind of give a little, maybe even a little bit more defense, and then just kind of rolling with how much damage you can go with. And then there's also another build. I had to make so many builds for this. This was so irritating. Additional build and then putting the rest, kind of like a little bit of a balancing board here. As an AGL unit, they already have a level 5 additional. You just push in more additional and then put the rest into dodge, basically. I think this is a good middle ground, kind of. Especially if you have enough equipment orbs to give him more dodge along with the additional. I think this is like a perfect defense build right here, if that's the way you want to use this unit. I think that is their primary focus, which is what we're going to look at right now, the roll tips. I do feel like this unit is a defensive unit, primarily. You throw them into slot 1, they either dodge or you're dead. And then once they transform into Vegito Blue, he does some damage in there, and he just dodging, and he's tanking a little bit. But he's primarily a dodge tank, and that's what I think this unit is. It's a dodge tank unit. That's the way you should probably focus on it. Or you can go for damage too, like I do a little bit. His typical leaders are going to be Tech UI, other Power Beyond Super Saiyan leaders, 7th anniversary units who will get an easy A next year, and then Angel Super Saiyan 3 Goku, I think is a fantastic leader as well, depending on the mixture of teams you can build with him. As far as partners go, you're going to go with basically anything that has a blue form. You know, you got the Evokin, you got Super Vegito, you got Super Gogeta, you got Blue Gogeta, and every version of Ultra Instinct will all link very well with this unit. And I feel like a lot of these units you can flip-flop between slot 1 and slot 2, depending on the situations. As far as his best slot position goes, I 100% believe this unit is a slot 1 unit. But once you transform into Vegito, I do feel like you can go into slot 2, depending on if you have a suitable slot 1 unit to replace him with. And I think you can take advantage of him getting an extra additional in slot 2 to do some extra damage. So, entirely up to you, but primarily this is a slot 1 unit. But yeah, that is a handful. And we're still not done. We are still not done here. We're going to go over the kit now. So I hope that helped anybody out that was wondering about the role tips on how to use the unit and so forth. But anyways, 200% leaders. This dude's got a lot of 200% leaders. I did not want to throw these all in here. Obviously, you have the Dragon Fist Super Saiyan 3 Goku. You have Beastless Gohan, GT Bomb, Future Gohan. Even Merge Zamasu is kind of okay of a leader. I personally don't like intermingling the Future Super and Extreme units. I don't feel like they mix well. A lot of players do find some success with it, and that's fine. But I think Tech UI, you'll find a nice new home for this AGL Goku Vegeta Blue Boys. I think Tech UI is their brand new home, or mostly because of the domain boost. You know, it gives them some new life. But anyways, in base, 12 key raises attack, stacks attack, and 18 key super stacks defense. So this is one of the main reasons the unit can be either good or bad. It depends on how often you're getting the 18 key super off. It depends on if you're getting additionals off. If you don't get a lot of additionals, you're not going to see a lot of damage coming out of Vegito once transformed. If you don't get at least 3 stacks of defense in base, it's pretty rough on his defense even after he transforms. Because you got to understand, let's say it's turn 1. Turn 1, 18 key super. Great, that's 1 stack. Turn 3, that's 2 stacks. Turn 5, that is your 3rd stack. After turn 5, you lose his intro. His intro, activate the entrance animation, his intro. Defense plus 100%, guards all attacks for 4 turns from the character's entry turn when there's another Future Saga category ally on the team. So this means that upon entering turn 5 from turn 1, you have lost 100% defense. You have a lost guard. And it just hurts, man. That hurts. That's a lot of defensibility that has just been chucked out the window, and it hurts this unit, and it does get people killed. So that is something to remember about this unit. Key plus 3, attack and defense 100, plus additional key plus 2 per type key sphere, plus additional attack and defense plus 50%, and attacks effective against all types when there's a Realm of Gods category enemy. Plus an additional defense plus 150% and 50% chance to dodge as the first attacker in a turn. And this is what I was saying before when going quickly over the builds. So this is primarily a slot 1 dodge tank. Plus an additional attack plus 100% and defense plus 50%, and launches additional attack. High chance of becoming a super attack as a 2nd or 3rd attacker in a turn, and then launches an additional super attack when key is 20 or more. So, yeah, pretty wild and crazy there. He can only transform when your HP is 70% or less, starting from the 5th turn. Yes, on the 5th turn after you've already lost your intro. So if you're not below 70% HP, you can't transform, and you're stuck like that. And you got to hope and pray to RNGesus that you can, you know, dodge. That is literally at that point where you were praying to RNGesus. But anyways, he has standard kind of links except for Warrior Gods and Godly Power, so he will intermingle with a lot of other Super Saiyan Blue-esque units, and some Super Saiyan units even. I feel like he'll actually intermix with quite a few of those. And like I said, all the Ultra Instincts, all the Gojitos, Vechitos, Evo Ken, Super Saiyan 7th Anniversary Gods, they will all be excellent partners. Moving on to actually the Vegito portion of him. He does greatly raise attack and defense on Super, and then he greatly raises attack and defense on 18 key Super, but also raises Super class allies defense by 50% for one turn. So it's not a rolling support, but you know, that's quite a bit of help for a lot of the units on your team. That's pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. It does feel good to have that go off. He does have Key plus 5. He does have Key plus 5 and 250% attack and defense, plus an additional Key plus 2 per key sphere obtained. Attacks effective against all types. Reduces damage received by 30% before attacking. And reduces damage received by 20%. High chance of evading enemy super attack, and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming super attack as the first attacker in a turn. So basically, before supering, before attacking, you'll have an extra 30% damage reduction. So you have 50% damage reduction before attacking. But after, in slot 1, you'll have only 20%. And he does have a 50% chance to launch an additional super in the first slot, so that is good. If you do decide to put him in the second slot, he actually has less of a chance to launch an additional super. But he does launch an additional super attack and then gets another medium chance of launching an additional super attack as the second or third attack in return. And then he launches an additional super attack when activating the active skill or when key is 20 or more. So basically, this guy can like quad penta super, depending on your hidden potential boof. Because you got your base, and then you got your 20, and then if he's in the second slot, you got your guaranteed, then you got your 30% chance, and then you got your hidden potential. So in slot 2 or 3, he can penta super. In slot 1, he can quad super. So that is something to keep in mind. He does have an active skill, causes ultimate damage, and it allows him to dodge, auto dodge for the turn. He auto dodges for the turn, but you can only activate it if your HP or the enemy's HP is 50% or less. It's one of the two. And then, of course, once again, all of his link partners are going to be, of course, more fusions of Vegito or Gogeta primarily, and then duo units like the 7th Anniversary, and they themselves, of course, will be their best partners at that point. So that is something to keep in mind. Let's go over his defense links really quick here, and then that'll be in the end of the video. So if you can manage to get 3 super attacks effects off, which is kind of unlikely, you're more likely to only have 2 if your HP is below 50%. But at that point, you know, if you can get that up, you know, defense-wise, that's not terrible. You know, 1,000,000 defense after 3 stacks isn't terrible. That's actually pretty decent. The problem is lasting that long. You know, we have fights that are doing 15, 1.2. You know, he doesn't really have any. He doesn't have damage reduction in base, right? Like in base, he's just dodge or die. They are dodge or die in base. There's no damage reduction here. It's all just dodge in base. So if it wasn't for the fact that he doesn't have guard or anything after turn 4. You know, it would make a crazy difference. Losing that guard hurts quite a bit. But, you know, once he transforms into Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, you know, with those 3 super attacks in base, any quad or penta supers, depending on the slot he's in, you know, you're sitting at a good, comfortable amount of defense. It's not a lot of defense, and I'd say it has aged quite a bit on that because of the lack of everything. 50% damage reduction does very well for him here, though, to a degree, because you got to understand, that's in 50% damage reduction only counts at start of turn. Still, 600k defense, that's pretty nice, that's decent, that's okay. But yeah, he is primarily a slot 2 unit once he transforms, I feel, just because you want to get as many additionals off as entirely possible. So... but I think that's pretty much it. That is the unit. That is the Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, AGL Blue Boys, whatever your name for them is. Do let me know down in the comments how you decided to build this unit, because they are a very complicated build. They are very player preferenced and player skill a little bit. So, anyways, guys, good luck with your summons on the Worldwide Download Celebration. Let me know how those went. And have a good day and a good night.